Hi, folks. Jack O'Malley with a Wednesday update. And man, was it cold here in Lansing overnight. I've heard folks talking about their thermometers being at 14 below, 8 below, that sort of thing. But man, when I was coming in this morning, the old Jeep, old Clem, it started. So it's good. You got to love these brisk days, right? All right, here's an update on things that are happening. In no particular order, I'll just throw this out there. Last week's average daily number of new COVID-19 cases hit a 4-month low, not seen since the first week of October. Department of Health and Human Services numbers showed an average of 1,096 daily new cases of COVID, and roughly a 25% drop from the week before and 41% from 2 weeks prior. So, interesting note there. Again, good that the cases are down, but as we've talked about, I think with the pandemic, they're going to ebb and flow. Hopefully, as more people get vaccinated, there'll be less cases. But the thing that I think is funny through all of this, and it's been said before, but I just pointed out, is if masks were all that protective, why are people still getting it, right? So social distance, wash your hands, wear a mask if it's applicable, and if you're able, and we'll just move forward, right? We'll keep plugging along. Now, one of the things that came to my attention, the other night I talked about plate spinning, in the sense that there's so many things going on, it's hard to follow and things get caught. Well, when the governor opened up the high school sports here a week ago, she extended this order out to March 29th. Well, when she did that, it also took, in theory, the restaurants that were supposed to have stay at 25% through February 21st, it carried that to March 29th. So a lot of people say, well, wait a minute here. That 25% rule is going to stay in effect till March 29. Technically, yes. Which I know is really going to kill. We've got to get them at restaurants and bars up to at least 50% for them to start making any money or to reopen in some cases. So I've heard through the grapevine, don't hold your breath, but I've heard through the grapevine that this week the governor's got another announcement coming about restaurants. So let's hope she gets it right this time. Not holding my breath, but just an FYI. Because the news of her extending it to March 29th is getting out there, which is true. It's like, what? When I got that word, I'm like, wait, I missed that. How did I miss that? But it did happen. So I'm hearing, though, through the grapevine, she's going to adjust that here by the 21st. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm hearing that it might. So I hope, again, Governor, please do the right thing. But I'm not holding my breath. Let's see here. Let's go to elections for a minute, because I know that's a concern for many, many, many people, as it should be. Our House Elections and Ethics Committee is taking testimony and working. And I mentioned last week that they've introduced some bills that actually were kind of holdovers from last year. But one of the things that Representative Bolin, who's the chair, who was a guest on this podcast a while back, talked about, her committee is now taking testimony, and they want to be thoughtful and get this right and move forward. So look for more bills and more legislation suggestions coming up. But right now they're taking testimony. And one of the interesting things was about the Secretary of State's office says about 300,000 voters listed on the qualified voter file have not been to the polls since the year 2000. And some 540 have placeholder birth dates. Why have 300,000 people not voted in over 20 years and still on the qualified voter file? That's a very good question. There is a bill that would require the Secretary of State to conduct a mailing to those voters who've not voted since 2000 and those with placeholder birth dates. Anyone that doesn't respond would be removed. Makes sense. And a placeholder birth date is one of those ones that a lot of people said, oh, this person died and they were, it says they were born in 1900 or whatever the date was. Well, the state chose a crazy year, but when a placeholder birth date is used when a voter's true birth date is not known, but they exist. So that's something else that they are going to hopefully clear up here with these committees and have proper legislation to fix it. But know that Chair Bolin is on it and they are working on it. So I know one of the things how can we ever have confidence in our election again? Because we're going to do thorough investigation, okay? All right, I scribbled some notes here, so bear with me. All right, this is an interesting thing. We've talked about the unemployment situation. And back in March, about a year ago, when all this hit, remember, we went from one of the most robust economies that we ever had to Depression-era unemployment. I'll never forget that quote from the powers that be. We went from a robust, booming economy to a Depression-era economy in less than 3 weeks. We had unemployment that was off the charts in less than 3 weeks. No one ever fathomed what it would be like to just shut down an economy like we did, but we did it. And Michigan, because of this robust economy, we had $4.5 billion in our unemployment fund, the trust fund. And everybody was like, whoo, we got a ton of money, right? Until the COVID hit and the governor shut everything down. We have gone from $4.5 billion in March to $600 million now. And the governor, and we want to put money into the unemployment fund, at least to match the money that they gave away in fraud detected. So that's what we want to do. But the governor, of course, is saying, we just want to give tax breaks to the rich businesses. Well, I'm calling horsepucky on the governor, because you talk about that, with all due respect here, there are major corporations in this state that make automobiles and whatnot. They're open, they're rolling, they're not laying people off now. But the people who still are those small businesses, those bars, those restaurants, those little businesses that can't open up, right? Because people aren't out, et cetera, et cetera. The point being is, those little businesses are also the ones that pay into this unemployment fund. And what we've talked about in the past is, if as you lay people off, your fee, if you will, goes up to pay into the unemployment fund, because you're a person who's always laying people off. So restaurants and bars specifically have laid people off, brought them back, laid people off, brought back. So one bar, restaurant, tavern in the district is looking at their rate going from 0.7%, I think it was, to 0.19. That's an additional 30 or 40 grand a year in unemployment tax that they have to put into this fund. So when the governor comes out and says, we just want to help the rich businesses. No, restocking and helping this unemployment fund is helping the small business. The big guys are open. The Fortune 500 companies, they're open. It's the little guy who isn't. So I call horsepucky on the governor. I'm also going to call horsepucky on the governor for something else. Because, again, we are in budget negotiations. Key word, negotiations. House has a plan, Senate has a plan, the governor has a plan. The governor's plan is basically give us everything. We'll handle it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, legislature. We'll take care of it. Well, the legislature's saying, no, our job is to appropriate money. We're negotiating with the Senate to come to terms with what we want as a legislature to go to the governor. So yesterday I'm on a call with some education enthusiasts, and they asked me about this. Well, why are you withholding money from the education department? I'm seeing the Superintendents Association saying we're withholding money from education. No, we're not. We are in negotiations for the next budget. And I'm going to say something else here. And I know that when I said this yesterday to these very nice people in this education group, I think some of them, their hair caught on fire. When it comes to education, last year, our budget was $15.2 billion. $15.2 billion. We spend the most money in bulk on education in the country, 10th. 50 states, we're 10th at $15.2 billion. That means there's 40 states below us that spend less on education, and 35 of those states kick our butt in all the reports that say how their kids are doing. We get our butts kicked by 35 states that spend less than us. So I throw this idea out because when it comes to education, I don't care who you're talking to in education, Well, we have this problem. How do we fix it? More money. Well, how do we fix that? Give us more money. Well, we've got a problem here. Give us more money. $15.2 billion is a lot of money. We spend more than 40 other states, but we get our butts kicked by 35 of them. My question is, could it be not the amount of money spent, but the structure of our education system that we spend it in? I don't know the answer to that. I'm asking that question, and I asked that to these education folks that were on the line. And I kind of got the sense that their response was, we need to look at the structure of a lot of things. So when you hear somebody in the talks here and you are an education enthusiast, please understand, we're not withholding anything. We just haven't given it yet. There's a difference because we're in negotiations. And just remember, last year, $15.2 billion. I think this year, the proposed budget out of the House is $15.7 billion for education. That's a lot of money. So maybe it's not the amount we're giving, it's how we spend it and how our structure is set. Remember, 10th most amount of money as a whole of 50 states, and we get our butts kicked by most of them. Think about it. We are going to continue negotiations. Know that that's how the system is supposed to work. Question is, will the governor actually come and speak to us? All right, I've gone a little over 10 minutes. That's always my goal, to keep it at 10. Talk to you on Friday. We'll see if the governor changes the restaurant things by this Friday. I'm hoping she is. I know there's the story going on about the 29th getting extended to March. The other thing, real quick, I want to throw in there, and I know this might, again, tick some people off, but today I got some very sad news. Having spent almost 40 years in media and in broadcasting and in radio, we all got word that Rush Limbaugh passed away. And I don't care what you think about him politically, doesn't matter. When it comes to influential people in the United States of America and in broadcasting, there are very few that equal Rush Limbaugh. And to his family, his wife, Catherine, who I've never met. I did meet Rush once. It's a sad day for broadcasters everywhere, and I think for conservative folks everywhere too. So anyway, that's it. I didn't want to forget to mention Rush, an icon in broadcasting. Whether you agree with him or not, you cannot deny his place. Have a good evening.